This envelope changed everything. My mother slid it across the linen tablecloth, her diamond ring catching the chandelier light like it was part of the performance. My sister leaned in immediately, phone already raised, pretending this was a moment worth remembering. The restaurant seemed to sense it too. The low murmur softened. A fork stopped mid-air. The string quartet hesitated on a note that never quite landed. Inside that envelope wasn't money. Not a card, not even a polite message. It was a Disownment letter, signed by all of them. My graduation present. I folded it once, then twice. The paper was thick, expensive, deliberate. I stood up without a word. No tears. No raised voice. Just silence and the weight of paper in my hand. They thought they had written my ending. They didn't realize they had just written the opening. Growing up, I learned early that love in our house came with conditions. My father, Charles Bennett, measured worth in returns and projections. My mother, Diane, measured it in appearances and approval. My sister, Avery, somehow mastered both. She was polished, efficient, and always exactly what they needed her to be. At dinner parties, I was introduced last. Avery is a senior associate in New York, my mother would say, her hand resting proudly on my sister's shoulder. Then came the pause, always the same pause. And this is Taylor, she's still studying. Still, as if I were unfinished. Guests would nod, offer polite smiles, then turn back to their champagne. I learned to smile back the way they preferred. Quiet, agreeable, forgettable. Our dining room smelled of cedar polish and expectation. The chandelier scattered fractured light across the crystal table, reflections that never settled. I used to count them while my father talked markets and mergers, and my mother rehearsed gratitude for donors who mistook vanity for virtue. Avery thrived in that world. She knew when to laugh softly, when to tilt her head just enough to seem engaged. Every gesture earned approval. Every pause was calculated. I studied her like a system I didn't belong to. Instead of thriving, I worked nights at a cafe near campus. The espresso machine hissed louder than any conversation at home. There, nobody cared about last names or legacies. They cared about accuracy, about getting orders right, about spelling names correctly on cups. It was measurable. Clean. Honest, I liked that. One Sunday after a long shift, I came home to find Avery at the kitchen counter, laptop open, my father pouring wine like he was hosting a board meeting. "We were just talking about you," he said, swirling the glass. Avery didn't look up. "You're wasting your time behind a coffee counter?" "It's character building," she added lightly. The edge beneath her words was sharp enough to cut. "I'm paying my own tuition," I said, forcing a laugh. My father shrugged. "Degrees don't pay bills, Taylor. Numbers do. Remember that." I wanted to tell him I understood numbers better than anyone in that house. That I built systems, tracked variables, modeled outcomes for fun. But his attention had already drifted back to Avery. After that night, I stopped trying to join their conversations. I started watching instead, observing, collecting data the way I knew how, quietly. There were moments I thought things might change. When I earned a national research scholarship, I sent them the email. The press clipping. Everything. My mother replied 6 hours later, "So proud of you, sweetheart. We have a gala tonight. Can we post about it tomorrow?" They never did. That was the night I understood something permanent. In our family, attention was currency, and I was always the unpaid intern. 2 days before graduation, a message arrived in the family group chat. A reservation link. Maison Lumiere. The same restaurant my mother booked for every milestone that wasn't mine. Pre-graduation dinner for Taylor. Dress appropriately, no emoji, no warmth, just control wrapped in formality. I clicked the link. My name wasn't on the guest list. The greeting read, "The Bennett family, Charles, Diane, Avery." It wasn't a mistake. It was a statement. An hour later, Avery texted privately, "Don't overthink it. It's just formatting." Formatting. That word stayed with me longer than it should have. That night, I sat alone at my desk. City lights flickered against the window like static. My inbox glowed with unread notifications, professors, classmates, investors. Proof everywhere. None of it mattered when the people who taught you your worth still measured you in silence. The next morning, an email arrived from the university. I had been selected to speak at commencement. My mentor, Dr. Alvarez, had nominated me for the Young Leader in Technology Award. "This is your moment," she wrote. "Own it quietly." Quietly. For the first time, that word felt like power. I closed my laptop. Sunlight cut through the blinds in clean, deliberate lines. Everything on my desk was aligned, mug notebook. Papers stacked by color. My life wasn't chaotic. It just wasn't organized by them anymore. And that was the moment I stopped waiting to be chosen. The night before the dinner. The city carried the low hum of rain. It pressed against the windows, softened the edges of sound, turned everything distant and muted. Inside my apartment, nothing was accidental. Papers aligned. Screens dimmed to a calm blue. The smell of fresh coffee cut through the damp air, sharp and grounding. I had stopped explaining myself months ago. Explanations are for people who want to understand you. Records are for people who intend to remember you. So I kept records. Every scholarship form, every award letter, every line of code. What started as a minor research assignment had grown quietly into something real. A data platform built to help small logistics companies optimize delivery routes. Not flashy, not loud, just effective Ethan-handled analytics. Maya shaped the interface, and I wrote the core algorithm. I was still just the barista to my family, but numbers don't care who pours the coffee. They only care if you're right. The breakthrough came before sunrise one morning. A simulation ran cleaner than anything before it, trimming fuel costs by 12%. I remember leaning back in my chair, watching the figures stabilize. Proof. By the time the university startup symposium arrived, route flow was ready. My mentor, Dr. Alvarez, stopped me just before I stepped on stage. "You don't need to convince anyone," she said. "Just show them how it works." I did. The data spoke clearly, without decoration. When the presentation ended, the applause came slowly at first, then with intention. That's when I noticed him, standing near the back. Hands folded, expression measured. "Nathan Cole, CEO of Northbridge Logistics. You've built something scalable," he said afterward, scanning the graphs. "And more importantly, something fair." Fair. The word settled in me, unfamiliar and steady. We met again. Then a third time. On that third meeting, he slid a folder across the table. Inside was a letter of intent. Northbridge wanted to acquire route flow for $2 million with a director-level position for me after graduation. I didn't sign right away. I read every clause, every condition. I wanted the system I built, born from silence, not privilege, to remain intact. When I finally signed, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like balance. From that moment on, I started building an archive, digital copies, encrypted files, time-stamped confirmations, a paper trail strong enough to stand on its own, without witnesses. The night the final transfer cleared, I printed the confirmation. The sound of the paper sliding from the printer was cleaner than applause. That was when I opened the family group chat for the first time in months. The last message was from my mother. A photo of Avery at a law firm gala. Proud doesn't begin to cover it. I replied with a single line, "Graduation dinner confirmed. I'll be there." No emojis, no explanation. After that, I cleaned the apartment the way I always did before something irreversible. Every object returned to its place. Symmetry restored. On my desk, I placed 3 things side by side: my degree folder, the signed acquisition contract, and a faded birthday card my mother once gave me. To my little dreamer. The new documents went beneath it. Heavier, final. They thought the dinner was about closure. They didn't know I had already closed the loop. I fell asleep to the sound of rain fading into silence, certain of one thing. Tomorrow wouldn't be about proving myself. I woke before sunrise. The room was still, the kind of stillness that feels intentional. Pale light caught the silver clip holding my contracts together, flashing once before settling. I touched the paper lightly, grounding myself. I didn't dress for them. I dressed for records. A clean blazer, neutral tones. Hair tied back. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that asked for permission. The kind of look that doesn't beg to be noticed, but doesn't disappear either. Before leaving, I aligned my coffee cup beside the laptop, exactly an inch from the edge of the desk. Habit. Order. Proof. Then I locked the door and stepped into the damp Chicago morning. The streets were quiet, reflections stretching across the asphalt. In the window of a passing cab, I caught my own reflection, calm, composed, someone I finally recognized. Outside Maison Lumiere, I paused. Through the glass doors, chandeliers shimmered. My mother's silhouette moved confidently between staff. Avery adjusted her phone, already framing the moment. My father sat straight, backed, waiting. They thought tonight was theirs. I took one steady breath and walked in. The hostess glanced at the reservation, then at me. My name wasn't there. I'd expected that. Bennett party, she asked.
Yes,
I said. They're expecting me. At the table, smiles appeared on cue. Taylor, darling, my mother said, voice coated in warmth. We'll have something special for you. A server placed a white envelope in front of me, pristine against the linen. My father cleared his throat, rehearsed authority filling the space. It's time we all move forward, he said. I opened the envelope slowly. The letter was legal, embossed, final. A clean severing of ties. They watched closely, waiting for a reaction. Grief, anger, collapse. I folded the paper once, then twice. Thank you, I said calmly, placing it beside my coffee spoon. Avery frowned. You're thanking us. I met her gaze. For the first time, there was nothing to explain. Then I reached into my bag and removed a gray folder. I set it on the table and opened it toward them. The Northbridge letterhead caught the light. Beneath it, my name. Director of Data Operations. Acquisition finalized. Silence spread, thin and brittle. You sold it? My father asked. Voice tight. I built it, I replied. Then I sold it. The deal closed last week. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. Avery's phone lowered. The red recording light already off. I didn't tell you. I added softly. Because you didn't ask. I stood. You can keep your letter, I said, sliding their paper back toward them. I already have my own. I walked away without waiting for a response. At the door, piano music filled the space they couldn't. Outside, the air was cold and clean, smelling faintly of rain. I breathed deeper than I had in years. By the time I reached my apartment, dawn had arrived. I placed their letter beside my framed degree. One erased me. One confirmed me. My phone buzzed. A message from Avery. We didn't mean it like that. Can we talk? I stared at it, then turned the phone face down. Some messages aren't meant to be answered. They're meant to fade. I made coffee, poured it slowly, listened to the cup touch the table. That sound had become my rhythm, steady, controlled, alive. Silence no longer felt like absence, it felt earned. Families break loudly. Peace rebuilds quietly. They wrote me out of their story. I became the footnote they'll never erase. And sometimes silence isn't surrender. It's strategy.